A young soldier disappears from a secured military base in the middle of the day. Weeks later, the truth that the investigators uncover is a lot more brutal than anyone anticipated. This is the story of Vanessa Guillén. This is Night Owl. Greetings. I'm Ted, your host, and welcome back to Night Owl. Today, we're off to Fort Hood in Texas, a military base that at one time a young soldier named Vanessa Guillén was stationed. She was born September 30th, 1999 in Houston, Texas, to a Mexican-American family. It wasn't a small family neither. She was one of 6 sisters. Now, most of her family would consider her to be energetic, funny, determined, a great person just to be around. And she was also deeply proud of her heritage, as she should be. And one thing, though, that she always wanted to do was become part of the military. She loved the whole idea of the Army and thought it could help her out with her life choices. And in 2018, she actually joined the Army at the tender age of 18. She was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, which is one of the largest military installations in America. There, her job was small arms repair, which she did with the 3rd Cavalry Regiment. Her family said she was very hard-working and ambitious. Now, according to Vanessa's family, her experience at Fort Hood started to sour quite a bit. It seems, allegedly, she had told her family that a superior officer had harassed her. And she was scared that if she actually reported it through the normal channels, that it could destroy her career because the person that she's accusing could do something to get revenge on her for reporting it. Then, on April 22nd, 2020, she was walking in an army room at Fort Hood, and last time anyone seen her was about 1 p.m., and then she just poof, up and disappeared. And what really alarmed both investigators and family alike was what she left behind. She left behind her car keys, her barracks keys, her identification, her wallet, and her phone accessories. Now, of course, Vanessa's family had all said that she would not have simply taken off and left all those items behind. I mean, she would have needed them, right? And then the Military Criminal Investigation Division, or CID, Texas Rangers, FBI, and local law enforcement all joined forces to assist in the search. And for weeks, they came up with nothing. Now, as time passed, family became more and more critical of how the military was handling its investigation. In fact, one of Vanessa's sister, Myra, actually became the face of a campaign to help search for her sister. And as for social media, it of course exploded with different hashtags like the hashtag Find Vanessa Guillén, or the hashtag I am Vanessa Guillén. Now, there's also protests, hundreds of them actually, in front of Fort Hood, accusing the military of withholding information about this case and, once again, failing their female soldiers. And let's face it, this is not the first time we've heard of such things like that. And they have been failing their female soldiers. And of course, what really didn't help Fort Hood's case was that at the time this was all going on, they were already facing scrutiny because a lot of different soldiers had their lives taken or had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Now that sort of added some additional fuel to people thinking that maybe there was something a lot larger going on at Fort Hood. Then, on June 30th, 2020, some private contractors walking out by the Leon River made a horrifying discovery. They found human remains. And these remains were identified as belonging to Vanessa Guillén. The remains had been dismembered, burnt, buried, and they believed moved around several times. The investigators had said that it's one of the most disturbing concealment efforts they've ever encountered. Now, it really didn't take the investigators all that long to come up with a suspect. And who they came up with was a guy named Aaron David Robertson. He was another soldier that was stationed at Fort Hood. I guess he'd been in the Army since 2017 as a combat engineer, and he reportedly walked fairly close to where Vanessa walked. Acquaintances of him consider him to be fairly socially awkward as well as quiet. But he wasn't exactly a perfect soldier by any stretch of the imagination. He, I guess, had several behavioral and disciplinary issues. Now, the investigators allege that Aaron had ended Vanessa using a hammer and then used a large container to transport Vanessa's body off-site. Now, there are witnesses that do claim to have seen Aaron moving a large container. Then there's also cell phone data. Now, this data would seem to indicate that Aaron was actually out at the Leon River burial site. So, on July 1st, 2020, armed with this new information, investigators went to confront Aaron, to which, of course, Aaron ran. And they did catch up with him in a place called Killeen, Texas. But before they had a chance to arrest him, Aaron ended himself. And unfortunately, when he did that, it left us with a lot of questions that only he had the answers for, but those answers he took with him to the grave. Questions like, why did he do it? One of the primary theories on the whole why was that perhaps Vanessa knew something about Aaron that Aaron really did not want to come to light. In fact, there were reports of him being almost paranoid that Vanessa had seen the picture of a young woman on Aaron's phone. This woman's name was Cicely Aguilar, which was Aaron's girlfriend. Normally, you'd just think, well, so what? But he was concerned that if she had reported seeing that picture, he could actually have gotten in trouble with the Army's rules against fraternization. But honestly, and I looked it up, don't get me wrong, if you get accused of that, it is possible that punishment could go anywhere from a slap on the wrist to being a court-martial. But still, is that a reason to end someone? Now, when it comes to Cicely, she wasn't just Aaron's girlfriend. She's actually directly involved in this case. Now, I'm not saying that she helped him end Vanessa, because as far as we can tell, she didn't have anything to do with that. But Aaron did confess what he had done to Cicely after the fact. And she ended up assisting him by helping him dismember and dispose of the body, as well as lying to the investigators. But thanks largely to phone records, controlled phone calls, they were able to allegedly create a link between her and what happened to Vanessa. And in the end, Cicely ended up pleading guilty to being an accessory after the fact, as well as making misleading statements. And in 2023, she got 30 years. Now, one thing the investigation into this case did do is it did sort of reveal some other potential problems Fort Hood was having. As I said, there had been a number of soldiers that had passed away or gone missing all around the same time. Now, that led people to think that perhaps there could have been organized crime at work, maybe trafficking of illicit substances. But there was definitely a culture of violence largely being ignored, especially when it came to violence against women, and that there was cover-ups within the leadership. Now, I do have to point out, though, there's never actually been any hard evidence that had proven a large-scale conspiracy. But it did hamper people's trust in Fort Hood. And of course, they found out that there was multiple reports that would highlight failures in leadership, a toxic command climate. They constantly mishandled harassment complaints, if they did anything about them to begin with. And they had investigative failures at Fort Hood. Now, as a direct result of the investigation they did into what happened to Vanessa, about 14 leaders were fired or suspended, and there was more than 20 officers and soldiers that faced discipline, and the military was forced to do a big reform. The I Am Vanessa Guillén Act became a nationwide push for the reporting of military harassment as well as assault cases. Now, what happened to Vanessa did have a lasting impact. It changed the conversation when it came to harassment in the military. Congressional hearings were held. There was policy changes in the military. And of course, there was public protest, which even added more scrutiny to Fort Hood. But there was new protections put into place to protect service people that was reporting abuse within the military. To us, the phrase, "be all you can be," is just a catchy slogan used by the Army. But to Vanessa Guillén, it was a way of life. She was a kind and sweet young woman that loved her country and wanted nothing more than to serve it with honor. But she discovered way too late that she was surrounded by people that didn't even know what honor is. Vanessa went on to become a symbol of soldiers who felt trapped in a system that failed to protect them. They say that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty, but sometimes it's not the enemy from without that you have to keep an eye on. Sometimes it's the enemy within. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. And if you liked it, then if you could please hit like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment at the bottom. It will really help my channel out. And if you did like this video, then maybe you'll like one of these that's appearing on your screen now. Once again, thanks for coming. And remember, be you good or be you wicked, everyone deserves justice. Good night.